For our next story, let's talk about tea. I'm sure many of you have it as part of your morning routine, but what if I tell you that countries are also using tea to pay bills? That's what Sri Lanka plans to do. You see, Colombo has been facing an acute economic crisis lately. Its forex reserves are dwindling, debt is piling. It owes Iran $250 million for an old order of oil. And since Colombo is not in a position to pay in cash, it is using tea to settle the bill. Our next report tells you how. Economic crisis and tea. Sounds weird in one sentence, right? But for Sri Lanka, one is a reality and the other is its most useful and popular commodity. And it wants to make the best of what it has. So it plans to settle oil bills with tea. Sri Lanka will use tea to pay for Iranian oil. And it says this agreement is crucial. There are a handful of things to unpack here. Let's start from the beginning. In 2012, Sri Lanka purchased oil from Iran. The oil was worth around $250 million. But the bill was yet to be paid. And the events of the last couple of years put Sri Lanka in a tight spot. The pandemic, an economic crisis, and political instability. Inflation touched 50%, foreign exchange reserves dipped to below $50 million, and fuel prices shot through the roof.
Very difficult these days because I had to keep my vehicle at home and come in the bus only to work.
In a nutshell, Sri Lanka was in no position to pay its oil bills. It had to seek a bailout. It turned to the International Monetary Fund or the IMF, and earlier this year, it secured a $3 billion lifeline from the IMF. But its woes are far from over, and its debts are far from settled. So it's been exploring alternatives. In 2021, Sri Lanka decided to use tea to pay some of this debt. It reached an agreement. Tea worth $5 million was to be sent every month for the next 48 months. But so severe was the crisis in Colombo that even this deal had to be put on hold. Now things are relatively better and tea is back on the table. They want to make a modest start though. They want to send tea worth $2 million every month. And this is how the barter will work. Sri Lanka's state-run petroleum company that purchased the oil from Iran will give rupees to the tea board. The tea board will use this money to ship tea. Then Iran's tea importers, upon receiving the shipment, will pay in riyals to the national Iranian oil company. And this arrangement works for both sides. It will save Sri Lanka dollars and prevent its forex reserves from dipping further, and it will allow Iran to recover payment for oil. Remember, Iran is under American sanctions, so a direct payment would not have been possible. But tea is exempted from sanctions on humanitarian grounds, and so Sri Lanka can send it. Also, Colombo's famous Ceylon tea is a prized resource. It's a key source of foreign exchange for the country. Just last year, Ceylon tea generated $1.25 billion for Sri Lanka's economy. And that was in the middle of its economic turmoil. Now Colombo wants to capitalize on two fronts: settle the debt and revive the tea business. And Iran is one of their top buyers of tea. The trade has dwindled in the past few years. With this scheme, Colombo hopes to boost exports. The barter begins next month, and Lankan officials are hoping that tea would ease some of their troubles.